Aloha YouTubers, welcome to Roman in Paradise channel. Today's lesson will be about understanding the value of color, the color temperature, also how to create complementary colors, all those good things that are very basic and I think very important to create better paintings. So today we're going to be painting a still life that is set up in sunlight, as you can see in the photo, with wood blocks that have been painted yellow, blue, and red. I have many different shapes. This is a beautiful way to simplify shapes and understand them better in nature while painting still life or landscape. Seeing the value, it's the most important thing. Color is secondary. Understanding the strength and the reflection, comparing one to another. So remember, what we're gonna do today is look at the composition and compare value one to another. Once we place a first correct value on any one of the objects, we'll compare the rest of the painting to that particular value, and this is how it would be a lot easier to create a painting. So I have some neat tools to share with you. First of all, color wheel, which is essential to understand changes of value. This is a grayscale. You can compare this grayscale to any color you're trying to read in the nature. Second is the viewfinder. You look at through this viewfinder and allow yourself to create a better composition. The frame acts as a finder of the right composition of the setting. Okay, I'll be using strictly my 1-inch palette knife, mixing the colors appropriate. So please pay attention to placing the first 3 colors, and after that it should be an easy ride. On the back side, what we'll use on the back side of the wheel is, let's say we select the color red-orange as a primary color for this block. In order to create a shadow, we will use complementary color, which is some kind of blue-green, and we'll create a darker version of it. If, let's say, we use a saturated red, that is a primary red, we'll use a green that is more of a cool side because this is a warmer red. Okay, this is fun tool, no guessing. You can do this with every single color. Let's take a yellow that we have there. To bring the shadow in the yellow, we're going to use some kind of form of violet to tone down the yellow and paint a darker side. So without any further delay, let's get started. Okay, now I want to share with you a couple of helpful tips how in an easy way you can find a color comparison from the color you mix to the color in the object that you are painting. One of those is the little square viewfinder that isolates the color. So you take the viewfinder, extend it, and look through it onto your subject, and then try to read the color on its own, isolated from anything else. That way your eye can totally focus on it and look at it real quick and find the closest match, mix it on your palette. Another way is, in addition to that, you mix that color with your palette knife and extend it right next to the subject and see how close you are. What I am doing now is starting with the background. I see a little bit of the green grass, so let's place it right here. So we have the first green. Okay, if we assume that this green is correct, then we'll move to the blue, which now if you compare with your viewfinder, you take this little window and place it in nature against the green, okay, and then put it on the blue and judge it in the color wheel, in the value scale. Let's say if this green is about this value or that value, where's the blue? Okay, and so it looks like it's a lot brighter than the green. But I'll use first a primary one. So I'll take this little window, put it against the blue, and study it, extend my arm and study that blue and see how much darker it is than the grass. So I'm mixing this, and for this, because it's a cooler blue, I'm using a cerulean blue. What we're not gonna do in this painting is to touch the colors. So I don't want you to have this blue touching a blue on top. Okay, if I assume that this blue, now it's correct, it's darker than the green, see that? We can lighten up that green a little later if we think it's too dark. Then now I have two, what I assume are correct values. So I'll move on to create now the lighter value of the blue, which is adding white quite a bit. And we are looking for contrast in value, strong contrast, as strong as you can handle it. So if this is a scale, let's say in the scale of value, number 5 or 6, this is pretty much number 1. Okay, so we have those two. Is this brighter than this? It could be a little brighter. If I want it brighter and warmer, because it's in the sunlight, I could use a little bit of yellow. It might turn it slightly into the green, but as I said, the color is not as important as the value. Okay, so I have this. Now I'm looking at the side of this wood block, and what I see is that it's lighter than this, but darker than that. So I'm gonna create a mid-tone blue and see if it's a little more correct. Okay, again, trying not to touch the edges, leave a little bit of white border so we can judge without interference. This is great. I like it so far. And remember, during the process, we can tweak this. So for now, this is just a study, so you understand. Okay, let's paint the shadow of the table. Now, the shadow can be any color. So this is kind of a gray. I'm comparing it to that blue and seeing is the shadow darker than the backside of the blue block. Okay, and looks to me like it is darker. So filling in the space. Okay, comparing it. Okay, it's darker. Let's continue with the shadow all around where I sketch and outline the shadow. Now that shadow of that color, it's right against this block right here. Right now, we're not going to worry about reflective light on the shadow because each wood block has a different color. It's going to cast a reflection on the shadow. So right now, we're not going to worry about that. Okay, now let's look at that yellow over the top. Well, the yellow over the top seems to me a lot brighter than actually the grass color. That's why it's good. We didn't start with the grass being too bright, because if I look at the whole painting, I see that the yellow, it's the warmest, the brightest color. This is just a little mark. I'm gonna try to do the backside now being the darker side. If you look at that backside, it's darker but lighter than the blue or the backside of red. So it has to be lighter than that. How do we do that yellow? How do we guess? Well, we see that viewfinder, the little one, and look at the block itself and see and guess the best you can what color that is. If you can read that color, sometimes it's really, really hard to read that color, we assume that we use, let's say, cool yellow. Well, what we're gonna do here is take the cool yellow and attach a little bit of violet. That violet's gonna be strong color, so we'll use only a little bit of it. And it's gonna kind of turn this into yellow ochre almost color. And notice when you look at the black, it's a little darker on the bottom side because it's closer to the shadow. Now this edge, compare that edge to the grass. It's a lot darker than the grass. So again, we're comparing this to that and seeing that it's darker and maybe even grayer. All by itself, it doesn't look like it, but it is. So remember, painting, it's seeing first. One must see the color there before you can paint. This is not a guesswork. This is a science. This is a cool science, how to see the color. So for now, I'll just fill this in. It's a little lighter here on this end, looks to me right now. Remember that the photo that I showed at the beginning, it was when the sun direction was different. Now the sunlight, I'm painting it live I'm right at front of the setup and seeing that the reflection changes. Okay, so this is the brightest. This is this side comparing to the grass. It's about the same value and it's darker. So we'll take both of these colors, combine it together and create this side, which technically needs to be lighter than this, but darker than this. Ooh, sorry, I said do not touch the color next to each other, and I just did. So I guess I'm striving to make this look as realistic as I can, okay? Also, what we see here is the shadow of the blue. Right now I see the shadow of the blue. I don't know if it's in the picture or not, but I need to create a little bit of the isolation here between the shadow. Okay, now let's go to the darkest part of the red. Okay, so I mix some color, which is now complementary from the red. So if my primary red is this, I'm gonna use this backside as a primary red. Looks like it's a lighter value than this. Okay, again, comparing. Lighter, so I'm gonna add a little more white. Okay, because it reflects the light from the back. Okay, so we've got that. How about the top? Okay, the top, it's really, really bright. But if you add white to this, it's gonna be pink. So I add white and yellow to make it look like it's in sunlight, okay? So we have those two notes, and let's do the darker side. Okay, how do we do the darker side? Okay, we'll find this red here, and looks like the best would be, let's say it's this red, okay? It's somewhere right there. You see the shadow color right there? Okay, this is the top color, you see that? We've added white between this and that. And then we'll use green, some kind of warmer green. So it could be your Viridian with yellow green, or any green that's similar to this. So I'm gonna use Viridian with, which is the darker version of that. So I'm gonna some of that green to the red to make this look darker. A shadow, and so the darkest would be right there. Actually, no, it will be right there. Okay, so it doesn't matter if the color matches, not for this study. Now I'm comparing to the table. My light has changed, so it looks like I have to brighten this because there is a light coming through and it reflects from the table. So I'm gonna brighten. Okay, so I assume I have this correct. There is also a shadow color behind that block right there, which seems to carry somewhere there. Okay, and because there is a light traveling from this area to here, I'm going to use this color to brighten this block up a little bit and carry it towards the back. And the biggest contrast, probably it's right there. Okay, there is a little bit of reflective light, even though I said I want this lesson, it's not about reflective light today, but because the sun bouncing off the table creates a little bit of warmth. So look, this is a nice little thing we're gonna do here. Use warmer red and drag it upwards, creating a little more reflective light. And we can do the same right here. Okay. Now let's address this table. Okay, I'm taking again the color, putting it right against that material that I have, and see, compare it to the grass. Okay, so where's that go? That goes somewhere right there. Wow, it turned out lavender. I think it's cooler than that. Cooler and brighter. So I add a little bit more blue to this. And let's make a mark like this. Simple, bold, chunky marks. That's what I love about palette knife. This is just a study. You can do this with the brush, of course, but I just love what the palette knife does, the effect that it leaves me with. Okay, so I've got this, and I'll carry some of that right against the blue, and then again I'm comparing it. Is it lighter than that blue? Definitely. Is it lighter than the grass? Yes. So let's continue with this grass now, and now we have the whole picture on the left side that give us correct or close to correct value, and see this starting to come together. Okay, so now there's no problem. You can, if you want to start turning this into more of a real scene, you can change the temperature of the green by making it cooler or warmer, adding a little more yellow ochre or medium yellow. Any yellow would do. Okay, where's my table? Okay, I went too far with this green. Okay, this looks pretty nice. Right on. Oh, my light totally changed. Boy, what am I gonna do about that? Okay. That's the beauty in landscape. Everything's gonna change on you really fast. So let's fill in the rest of it real fast. There was a boo-boo right there. Now I'm speeding it up a little bit. Notice that by mixing the colors on the palette random, I'm picking up some other tones, which is totally fine as long as your value is consistent. So remember, color does not matter as much as proper value in painting. This is very, very crucial. Too bad I didn't learn this a long time ago. Trial and error. Okay, so table is brighter than the green. So if the value comes too close and you're not sure, oh my God, this is like too close in value, well, why don't we kill this and turn it a little darker on this edge so the table will pop. Okay, this is when you start comparing and popping things. See that? I created a little cooler green and darker, carry it forward, and now the table stands out. If you can make things any brighter than you think, then you make other things darker. That's what tweaking color and value is all about. See, I'm doing the same thing over here. Okay, so far so good. This is going to start turning over the top. Okay, so comparing this edge to this edge. This is darker, this is lighter. This, it's still not light enough, so now I go and I squint my eyes. I put the color finder, the little square, right against the top of the blue on this blue block, and it tells me it's still brighter than I'm thinking. So I'm gonna pop this a little more. Almost white, but because I have blue underneath, it's gonna work just fine. Okay, so now it's a comparison of values. Okay, once again, what do I need to tweak? Let's create a little more light here. So I have the shadow. If you want things to pop a little more, then we draw with the edge of the knife. Look at that. We just draw an outline and start separating the values a little more. Okay, I'm dragging this on, and you see how the light from the back shines? That's all good. Now, what I like to do is brighten that shadow a little bit by adding lighter color. So I added a little more blue, a little more white, and create this change of value. Look at that. Okay, right now I see that color in a different way than I did a few minutes ago. Brighten that a little bit. You see, it reads a lot better. Every shadow that you're gonna look at, it's gonna have a lot of changes. That's why I used a light table cloth, because it allows you to understand how this works with the darker tones. You see here, what you can do is, now let's talk quickly for a few minutes about reflective light. See, the sun shines here on this block. What it's gonna do, because it has a certain sheen, it's gonna reflect on the shadow, right? So I'm taking some of this color, putting it right next to the shadow, and dragging it with the proper design and composition outwardly with, see that? With proper perspective. So see, the perspective, it's this way. So I'm trying to make the same perspective design with the shadow. Not as bright here, but still a little lighter next to the blue, and darker to the edge because it's meeting The darkest dark meets the lightest light. And blending these edges. So for the shadow to look correctly at the end, what you can do is grab a little bit of this edge. That's why there's no substitute for it. Palette knife blending. Look at that. I'm grabbing both of these paints next to each other, and I am doing this usually in the last stages. See how soft this edge is? This is amazing. It creates effect of shadow blending with the table. Instead, look at that. I can extend this, tweak it. Maybe it's not the same as on the photograph, but now I am not looking at the image anymore. I am redesigning the composition. See, blending the shadow. The more you go with your knife over the color, the more you're gonna blend it. This is a cool part. Okay, so when the light meets the darker, now this is the more of an advanced stage. This edge is gonna appear darker. Even though it's the same, it's gonna appear darker than this. So we create this illusion by doing a little darker tone of this version of blue next to the light. You see how that makes it pop? Okay. Okay, on the bottom, what I see, it's reflective light. So this is influenced by the shadow again. The shadow casts a light onto the black. So notice this is darker, but in the middle, it's the bright cloth reflects up there. So I'll be brave here and take some of that brighter color, and you'll notice the value from this to there. It's like this. Just one stroke, bang. Reflective light, it's on. I love it, I love it. You can have so much fun with those. Same thing here, see? This edge is fine. This is a little too light. So now we contrasting the edges. I'm comparing this edge with this edge. It appears to me like it's darker. So I am taking this dark blue and making it a little darker. Yeah. That's it, that's it. That pops. What's going on here? This needs to be a little lighter. Okay, and now the stroke that I'm placing, I'm trying to create it with this knife in the direction of the perspective, so it looks like it's going this way. Whatever suits you, whatever makes the piece look more realistic. Now I need to pop this light again. Okay, now we can fiddle with this forever. And I think that will be it for this beautiful little black study. Oh, I'm not making it any better. I'm now starting to blending too much. A little warmer at the top. You can change the color any way you want it. We don't need to go all the way to the top. The most important is how the color reads next to the subject. See, this is where you can have the implement your artistic license and create that green. You would do the same thing in the landscape painting. Create any of those colors by increasing the saturation or temperature. Look, now I am popping the brightness of this by creating more contrast. I already have the color underneath, so that color is preserved. I'm just tweaking it. What do you think? I think it's okay for a short study, and I hope that will allow you to see the color in nature. Let's look at this right now. Okay, look at this. The green, the yellow, the back side of the block, the green, the top, the side, the back side. You see how easy it is if you use the viewfinder to compare. Okay, let's compare this to the shadow, to the table. Okay, let's compare this blue to the red. See, the red is brighter than this blue. Then we compare this red to the table and to the backside because it reflects the light. To the table, to the light. We compare the red to the green. It appears, the top of the red wood block appears brighter than this green. How about this? Those two you compare. It might not be, in my case, it's a fast study, might not be exact, but if you follow that formula, you can't go wrong. Keep practicing this. Set up still life in light or even the cast shadow. If this is in the study in the bright daylight at about 3 in the afternoon. If you paint this in the morning, that's what Impressionists did. They start going outdoors and like Monet, his haystacks, or Cézanne. These artists went outside and start seeing color like nobody has seen it before, because they finally start noticing that the light influences everything. Light influences everything, and such is life. Signing off, wishing you a happy painting. Don't give up. This is not as hard as you think. It does not take talent, but it does take practice. What else is new?